People versus estate agency brand. Today I'm joined by Toby Phillips, who is the boss man of the franchise group Xperience and Martin & Co. Toby, before we switch the cameras on, we were talking about whether an estate agency brand is more powerful or a personal brand, you know, with all these self-employed agents, and which one is more powerful. What are your thoughts? Talk to me.
Since I've been in the industry, probably now I think I'm on my 36th, 37th year.
You obviously started as a child.
Very young, yeah, very young. I would say thank you very much though. For me, this business will always be about the person. The brand itself, and I'll come on to that in a second.
And let's be honest, you are a franchise group.
I am. So I'm treading carefully.
Because you are selling a brand here.
But if even it's selecting a franchisee, the franchisee has to be right for that business.
Yes.
But also it's a real bonus if they're right for the brand also. So what I mean by this is the person behind a desk in any estate agency in the UK is more important than the name above the door. The name above the door, a good person will add so much value to the brand. A poor person will detract from that brand.
I used to be national sales manager for Belvoir, and I always used to say that the brand gives you a coat of credibility, but it's the person within the...
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was surprising that, you know, people say, well, you opened up a new branch in a new town, and people were surprised that people weren't flooding. Well, no one knew the brand in the town, did they?
Exactly. But they knew. So Chris Watkins opening up in Grantham, where we are today, he's
the centre of the property universe.
I can't believe my surroundings. They're fantastic, Chris. It's the highlight of my career. However,
you sarcastic.
The main thing is, and if we take franchising to one side, and I'll come back to that in a second. If I have a branch near me in Swindon,
yes,
and I have a first-class branch manager, what brand I choose to call it is almost irrelevant. What will strengthen that is the fact that I've got a world-class person and I've got a network surrounding that of other world-class people. However, if I didn't have a network and I just said, right, I'm going into that town, it's about the people behind the desks, not the name above the door.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very upmarket franchise brand which is part of your network now, and there are some people who take that brand and basically rinse it dry, and they're just pulling trees up, and it's amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
And then there are others who don't do anything with it, and they're at the bottom of the pile.
And from a customer's point of view, people were saying, so why are you really good in that area, but I've had terrible service in that area? That's nothing to do with the brand, apart from the damage it causes, because the people have a different work ethic, customer service ethic, etc. So for me, it's people come before a brand, but the brand then is the part that, as you quite rightly say, the brand will grow that much quicker, have that much presence with the right people.
It's interesting, when I was in franchising, and again, I'm teaching granny to suck eggs here, but let's just say it was a nice round 10, you had to give 10% of your income to the franchise brand. Now, again, I can say certain things that possibly you might not be able to say.
Not.
Well, let's see how we go on. I always used to say this, that a third of that 10% is for the brand. I don't think a particular brand is worth 10%, but I think a third of it, so about 3.33%. I said the other 3.33% is that basically you've got some wonderful backup of a big firm in terms of the compliance and being kept on the straight and narrow. But the big one, and probably I would even say, go as far to say it's even more than the third, it's probably even 5%, is the fact that you're a part of a network of like-minded people in the same group who've been there, done it, different parts of their journey. And that's where I think the true value of a franchise. And I know this isn't a franchise, but again, I think it's a great way to look at it, is that's where the power of the brand isn't just the logo.
Absolutely, it's the people who run that brand. A great example of this is, I'm fortunate enough to work with the CJ Hole brand. And I'll pick CJ Hole.
So they're based around the southwest, aren't
Southwest. Bristol is really the heartland, but some fantastic operations around that southwest area. I've competed against CJ Hull for a number of years. Until I joined the franchise group, I didn't realise they were franchises.
they? There you go.
That's the power of the people within that brand. I thought there was a guy called Mr. Hull or Mr. CJ who ran that business, and they were out and out my biggest competition for many, many years. It's only when I now work with the guys from CJ Hull I realise they are the business owners. You wouldn't have known because the brand was so well run, it's seamless, and the power of that network is unbelievable.
What is particularly interesting, and again, it's part of your stable in the property franchise group, is the You've Moved brand consistently winning awards. Great, great numbers as well, pulling trees up, Nick and his team there. And again, look past the cartoon sheep. It's the people.
The people, and if you look at Nick's team, and they are the selection of absolutely, they're varied, but they're great guys. They've got one thing in common is they're all behind the brand. So if I look at Parker's and I look at Ellis and Co, the one thing, they all come from different walks of life.
Yes.
They've got one thing in common, which is the brand. And some of these people, and the guys who work for Parks and the guys who work for Ellis and Co, and I could talk forever about them, they all believe wholeheartedly that the route to their individual success is behind the collection of that brand. And it's been an eye-opener for me over the last 2 years just to see how these people drive the brand in the detail they do. And if I had my time again, I've been an independent, I've been a corporate, I'm now a franchisor, I would want to be part of one of those networks.
And again, it comes back down to what we're saying is that out of your franchise fee, it's the people, your fellow franchisees in the network that are taking, you need the support of the franchisor. What are your thoughts with regard to, the self-employed brands? I mean, they've got brands which, your EXPs and your TA UKs and Avocados, where a lot of it is more on the person as opposed to the brand because the brands aren't known. What are your thoughts on that? Have you seen some good people out there? I mean,
I've got a lot of people I've worked with over the years who are EXP franchisee, and I think in terms of that model, I think it's about those people already have been dominant within those areas.
Yes.
So they are a name. Whether, again, and no disrespect to any of those brands, whether they're EXP, Avocado, whoever they are, a Chris Watkins in that area who is known, who has networked locally, has that driven name, will be successful.
I agree with you. I get called all the time because I don't take kickbacks. Who's the best self-employed model? And I say, well, quite frankly, they're all the same. The only difference is that the one-to-one relationship that you've got with I know they're not the franchise, but the franchisor, the license holder, to keep you motivated, because it's a lonely old game, isn't it?
It's a 24-hour networking, which isn't for everybody. So people may not want to go to the local pub and canvas for business. They might not want to go to the golf club or the gym or whatever. You have to be a certain type.
Yes.
But already having a good track record in that area, I think personally, looking outside in, it's very difficult to go to a new area if you haven't got that network.
And I think that's why it's important. We're in Grantham, obviously centre of the universe, like we've said before, when it comes to property. Is that, Grantham, there's a chap called Tony Ruby, who's their best performing estate agent. And he built his personal brand 2 years before he actually, and I think that's the bit is if you're going down the personal brand approach with a half decent brand but name behind you, but a personal brand, then do that I know it sounds awful, but no one's going to watch this, don't worry, is to build your brand whilst you're being paid.
Definitely, exactly. And that's almost the what franchising offers, because I've been an independent and I've been a corporate, and actually, is the personal brand as important within a corporate? In a town, yes it is. So wherever you're operating, whether your name's above the door or someone else's name's above the door, or there is no door, your name is the most valuable part of that business.
Indeed, and for anyone watching this who necessarily works for a large firm, the first thing is don't ask permission, because if you ask permission of your boss, they're buggered anyway. If they say yes and you cock it up, they're to blame. If they say no, and if you do really well, then you get all the glory and they look foolish.
Well, I'd go as far as to say, I would ask for forgiveness, but if you've got the right boss and you've been employed on the right terms, conditions and understanding, you won't ever need to ask for permission.
No, join the local Facebook groups as you, not as an agent, and then just create great content which doesn't sell but absolutely gives and helps and guides and supports people. Talk about house prices, rents, yields in your local town. That's what people are interested in. Talk about the local community. Get involved. That shouldn't go against any contract that any of the toughest corporates.
And if you're working for the right brand, everything you're doing will only enhance that.
Indeed. So if you have a boss that really comes down on you, then quite frankly, I think you're working for the wrong firm, aren't you?
100%. 100%.
Toby, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Chris.